Chucky, would you, because when you talk to Chucky, you're talking to, 6 puppeteers, but I'm talking to him like he's a stand-in or an actor. And I go, Chucky, would you mind turning your head this way? And he just goes like this.
Oh,
he just flipped me off. It was awesome. I'll never forget that.
Well, along the same line of crazy characters, The Mask, another one of my favorites.
One of the funnest movies you could ever work on.
Rubber-faced comedian Jim Carrey and
Cameron.
Yeah.
She was amazing. He was amazing. That was this really, 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 really fun experience. It was hard work. After that, I would go into Jim Carrey's trailer with he and Cameron and a couple other folks and hang out and bullshit almost every night after work.
There's, and there's some crazy, VFX elements, and the Coco Bongo Club is just insane, and
it was great. Visually,
the stage is all lit up there. Like, did you help with?
So fun.
Was it all was it all just light bulbs?
Well, what it was, it's so funny you remember that. There was a movie before that. That's right. That's really cool. No, but there was a movie before it. There was like a period picture, a dancing movie, Strictly Ballroom. And they used, in one scene, they had some lights in the stage and when they were doing some ballroom dancing. And I went, wow, that's so cool. And so I kind of analyzed it. And I thought, well, you know what? When I saw the Coco Bongo and I knew I was analyzing the number and, that she was going to do. And then she, would touch a stair, it would light up. And,
she comes down all slinky.
And so I totally came up with that whole deal of putting those bulbs in there. And then I thought, well, it'd be kind of fun. Maybe, what if we use a star filter, which is kind of a little bit like diffusion, which it is.
Yep.
Okay. And wouldn't it be cool when they hit those things? It goes bing, 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 bing as she's coming down, and have a nice little kind of crane shot with that. It kind of worked out.
There's another scene when he finds the mask for the first time.
Yep.
And he's in the water and there's like a bridge and there's like really no lights except for the cop spotlight down. And he's like, I'm just looking for my mask. And is that in studio or is that on location?
That was in San Pedro, I want to say, out in this bridge out there. It was live, practical location.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And great. Well,
did you just have a spotlight or how did you?
We actually probably used I want to say we used a xenon, a small xenon at the time for the cops light.
Yeah.
And then their flashlights were probably, I can't even remember now, to be honest. It was 1 or 2 years ago. I really don't remember. But I will say that I do remember on the bridge, if you remember, it was seriously, it was cobalt, it was called Congo Blue, was the gel. It was, that was the, this bizarre, super saturated gel. And matter of fact, after that, I went on
like when he gets out of the car and it's
when he gets out of the car and it's like he's all bummed out. Remember that part? And before he looks over the rail, he's all bummed out and then he sees it and he runs down. I think that's the deal, if I kind of remember.
Yeah.
That was like seriously the use of Congo Blue. And before that, on Tales from the Crypt, where I became a DP, they were kind of, open to trying anything. And so that's where I learned about Congo Blue. And after the mask, they called me John Congo Blue Leonetti.
Ooh.
Because, as a joke, basically.
You should change your IMDb.
Basically, to John Congo Blue Leonetti. Well, it might hurt me now, maybe.
Or maybe just your email address.
Yeah, maybe that'd be kind of cool. Nice. Yeah, John Congo Blue at johncongoblue@gmail.com. That would be kind of cool.
Nope. No, we're just kidding. No. People are going to email you.
Anyway, that's it. But it's interesting though. In those days, it was kind of cool to do that, and like kind of now, like the last thing you want to do is like put serious blue on a light for moonlight because it's like not natural, and it's interesting, how photographically things work and change and what's appropriate for what.
The mask wasn't based completely in reality.
Exactly.
It was very campy and almost like comic book looking. So you could kind of take those liberties and
you're right.
Push it.
And we did. Yeah. But interestingly enough, seriously, on the mask as well, not only did we have these seriously saturated colors, but we used very sourcey, soft, what I called at the time European lighting when we were doing when it wasn't crazy, when he was just Stanley Ipkiss and and he was falling in love with Cameron, or we were at the bank or whatever, and it was actually, I think, kind of pretty just very natural, soft, sourcey light. And then it got crazy, like you saying.
Well, yeah, every time the story was going to take the turn.
And you go deep.
The mood, it would turn with it, so
Now you have to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, Do ya? Punks.
What about Detroit Rock City?
Awesome experience. Awesome.
I feel
film.
like you just would have had a blast doing that.
It was great. That movie, as a comedy, was like, you know, it's kind of a more realistic comedy. Kind of a.
I feel like we can all relate to that.
Yeah, I mean, these four guys would do anything to get to this fucking Kiss concert. And once all the four guys got together, they finally got in the car to drive to Detroit.
Yeah.
And they've just left this, you know, this I don't know, the bishop at the seminary where they just gave a mushroom pizza to the priest, and he's like totally tripping out. And they run down, they get in the car, and then they're on the road, and they want to roll a joint. They light a joint, and Adam goes, John, I just want to have the camera in the car, and I want them to pass the joint around, and I want to follow the joint around 360 degrees as they're passing.
I know
it.
what shot you're talking about. It's
awesome
like there's
shot.
four of them, and
Yeah.
the camera's right in the middle.
That's exactly right.
And it's this seamless
Exactly right.
circle from as if someone was sitting
all in one
right.
shot. All in one shot. It was
on the
so
center
fun.
console.
And that is like, you know, that's kind of cool. And it's actually, again, it's another kind of like example of how to kind of mix the technical bullshit with the artistic bullshit, if you want to, you know what I mean?
Camera motivation.
Yeah, and how to pull it off. It's like, you know, director comes up with an idea like this, you go, can you do it? Sure.
And then it's like, okay, powwow, how can we make this happen?
and I said, I don't know how to answer it right at this moment. And what we did was, it worked great. And they had this new film at the time. It was 250 ASA. It was 5293, and it was a film that had the best contrast range. So the bottom line is, you run a camera 360 degrees around the inside of a car, and everybody, you can't tow it. They have to drive the car down the road.
Yeah.
You can't light it. You can't put lights outside the windows. So you have to create balance. And you don't want like everything outside the window blown out, because you don't want to feel like they're not really going down the road.
Yeah.
You know, and then you got to put the camera in there, and you got to rotate it 360 degrees while they're passing the joint around. So how the hell do you do it?
A rig of some sort.
It was a rig.
A turntable.
Yeah, an upside down turntable. You're
Yeah,
right, girl.
I just
you
making
got
it
it.
up. I don't know.
No, you got it. You got
Yeah.
it. Basically, what we did is we took a snorkel on the rack. We took speed rail and put a remote head and a 16 millimeter lens on the snorkel,
Yeah.
and then we followed it with a period van with a radio controlled remote head. And so you could see us in a period van,
Yeah.
but it didn't matter. We were, half a mile behind or a third of a mile behind.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about it, bottom line is, it had the energy. They were so excited. They're having
They're
a good
just like
time.
their mouths are open and their eyes are like, ah!
And the lens, the choice of the lens, everything about it was like kind of perfect, and it worked.
Yeah.
That was one of the cool, fun ones.
Magic, film magic.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
Yeah, it was cool.
There's another part where it's all the cars are backed up and they see the KISS sign ahead, and it's like KISS, and it's all lighting up in different ways.
Yep.
And it looks like there's like steam coming out of somewhere, or I don't know if it's smoke. Is it just people smoking joints or whatever? And they're looking, it's this long shot, and they're looking down all the traffic.
I know
that's
exactly
going
what you're talking about. That was actually really fun to do.
Because it was dark, but you could still see this.
Well,
like,
what we did
plumes of
was we
smoke
took.
coming out.
I got this idea from my brother when he did a movie. He took, one of those huge what they call ballyhoo lights. You know when they have like a grand opening and all those lights that shoot up into the sky.
Yeah.
All right. In those days, I want to say it was an arc. It was an arc.
Okay.
And big ass thing, And he ripped it down like First Street or down Main Street or whatever it was in One Bunker Hill. That's what it was in downtown LA.
Yep.
And it would shoot blocks, and it would make just a hot light that would rip all the way down the street. And I was in work with him once when he did that. So I thought, that'd be kind of cool to do for this. So basically, it was kind of a similar situation of that, which we got. But because it was so specific, that light, it didn't hit everything. It just edged a whole bunch of things, so in the smoke just really kind of
So like some of the
popped.
rooftops, and then some of the people that were walking by, and oh, okay, so it's like a horizontal light.
a low horizontal ripping light.
It's ripping.
Exactly.
What about the Scorpion King? That was kind of
It was a great
that was
experience
The Rock's
too.
like first big elevation to film, the film word
Yes.
from WWF or whatever.
And he's a great dude. He's a great guy, first of all.
Yeah.
Good soul, really good soul. And that was the biggest movie I've ever shot, like $100 million or whatever. And I hate to say this, or I don't hate to say it, but I have to say it. It's probably the easiest film I've ever shot.
Oh,
I mean,
great.
because you have everything you need in all the time you need, and it's like, it was almost too easy, and and I honestly think there was too much money wasted on that movie, like for all these independent films I've done since as well, that I think we could have made probably 5 or 10 of them for what was wasted, on that in a way. I'm not, for whatever that's worth, but that's just kind of an aside.
Well, and you have that perspective now that you've kind of worked all across the spectrum.
This is true. I've done everything from $1 million to $100 million.
Yeah.
And studio, independent, whatever. And I love it all, actually. And I loved working with Chuck Russell, the director. I did The Mask in that movie with him, and he's a very visual guy as well. And working with The Rock was great, and having those big bitchin' sets to light. Oh my God, how much fun is that? And in Sodom and Gomorrah in 3000 BC, there's like no electricity, so everything's like flickering, or not necessarily flickering light, but it's all firelight or oil lamps or whatever. So it's a whole other.
Try to emulate that.
Yeah, and
oh
yeah, how much fun! I mean, without getting into the details of that, it was so fun to do that, and I would love to do something like that again. Actually, to have those great studio sets to shoot and light, and then to be out in the desert and to do that. And that whole movie was shot in California. The whole movie in California, which is really cool. We used the desert down in Klamath, which is near the Mexico, Arizona, California borders, right down there. Yep. Incredible dunes and desert down there. I mean, most people don't know it, except for those who are into dune buggies and shit. And very fun.
So you shot a series called The River in Hawaii, and that was broadcast last year, I believe?
Yeah, shot the pilot in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And then did 7 more episodes in Hawaii. Did not get picked up after that.
Okay.
I didn't think it would, even though I thought it was cool.
It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And so so the film crew sets up like security cameras around the boat.
You got it.
And then they're trying to find him, and then there's just like quasi paranormal / like spooky shaman stuff going on.
This is true. And network television was not ready for that.
No.
A cable show, network, maybe.
Right.
But not, I don't think ABC or whatever. It was too intense, too out there. It's I don't know. I didn't, even though I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Which it was just maybe too intense. And it was great for me though, because it was like kind of a great experiment in messing with digital imaging. And we had 16 cameras on the truck with 2 camera crews, 7 different formats of cameras, 7 different kinds of cameras.
Yep.
And we were having actors operating cameras. They were the documentary cameramen in the show.
Yep.
And
so kind of a logistical nightmare that you had to make work.
Oh, all that shit. We'd have sometimes 11 monitors for the director to watch at one time, which is insane. Totally insane. I mean, who can watch 11 monitors at one time? Nobody.
But it all came together. I thought it was great. I saw the first 3 episodes.
It was cool. I think it was cool.
You like the challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Leonetti.
Mm.
You like the challenge. I can tell. The reason I can tell is because you worked on Piranha.
Oh.
And no one would sign on with that unless you're a thrill seeker.
How much fun
Talk
was that?
about logistical craziness.
That was awesome. Piranha was actually a really interesting photographic experience, actually. It was Piranha 3D.
Yep.
We did conversion. We were gonna capture, 2-camera capture, but we realized, I kind of immediately figured out and realized that it would almost be impossible to do it efficiently and actually correctly, even especially with the budget and the schedule we had, because to capture 2 cameras on the water day in, day out, you can't even use the Polar screen, or you couldn't then on a twin epic system or whatever, because just if one Pola is different than the other, then they don't line up, and it's a whole, anyway, I can go on and on. But we ended up deciding to
Convergence
capture,
nightmare.
and the director really wanted Alex Aja, who is an amazingly wonderful director and a cool dude, and he's French, and he gets it, and his sensitivity to that movie, in my opinion, made it so cool for American audiences. I mean, he went there, he went deep, and he didn't give a shit, and he just hoped America could handle it, and it was cool, I thought. But
Absolutely.
you know, photographically, it was fun to do, and he wanted to do it anamorphic, and we did it anamorphic, and then they converted it, and we shot that on film as well. Like Soul Surfer, again, in those days, digital cameras couldn't handle the contrast range of the sun, the highlights in the clouds, the shadows at one time, and film still does. Now that Alexa does, but didn't have one then.
Yeah.
Anyway, but how much fun. We're on Lake Havasu. I mean, sunrise to sunset, how many days in a row, and spring break, and all the crazy shit that was going on. And all I can tell you is my crew had a great time.
Use your imagination, people. Excellent.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, like, there was just, you know, boobs and blood, which is, you know, always a recipe for success.
Exactly.
The glass bottom boat with the naked chicks underneath, and
Oh my God.
oh yeah, that must have been hard to light.
Oh my God.
What a job for you.
Actually,
Poor guy.
it was super fun to do, but that's an interesting challenge. It was an interesting lighting challenge. We built our own tank. We had the biggest tank in North America that we built up in Havasu, that, you know, next to the one that was down in Mexico. It was the biggest one in North America.
Wow.
And I think they've just filled it in. It's like a roll of gaffer's tape. You just build it, use it, and throw it away. I don't know. Anyway, but it was a very cool tank, and it was you know, being able to shoot there and then also shoot, you know, in and around Lake Havasu was kind of awesome.
Was that tank also used for the scene where the boat's sinking and like the girl's trapped in there and it's filling up and all that?
Yeah, that we did in, you know, one of these kind of more secluded coves. It was, you know, contained coves, you could say. Yeah, we did most of the work live, or practical, I mean not live, practical in that cove, and then we did some of it, you know, in the tank as well. But very fun movie to do.
I bet every day you didn't know what was going to happen. Like, it's just...
Well, yes and no. I mean, we had to plan it out like really well, because, you know, it was a tight schedule and all that.
Lots of people.
Yep, a lot of people, and all the rigging that went. There was so much blood in that river that goes down under the bridge and Lake, you know, in Havasu City there, and oh my God.
And it was just like, just red. The water is just red.
Totally red. Totally. I mean, you know, it's biodegradable.
Well, what are you supposed to do? You can't clean that up very easily.
It just assimilated. It was, you know, it was corn syrup and, you know, food coloring, you know, whatever. But
but it still looked pretty deathly.
It's crazy. It was fun. It was a really fun movie to do, and actually I think it was entertaining, and I think it was successful, and again, I think that director, Alex Aja, is wonderful, and we'll love to work with that dude anytime, anywhere.
What about like when the scuba divers first kind of discover the cavern and that dude comes face to face with the first one? I mean, was that all in a tank as well? Like, how was that?
Combination of
that's supposed to be
tank,
quite far down.
Same tank and digital as well.
How do you light that? Are you just...
Well, flashlights.
Yeah.
It depends on what depth you're at and what you're trying to simulate.
Because that's supposed to be quite deep.
Right. It was flashlight. I mean, at that level, it's the lights they have on their head and their flashlights, and that's what really does it. And then digitally in the distance, they just created that. But we you know, did some of that at night as well, and we did have some additional light from that was from above, helping that a little bit. But Pete Zuccarini, he's from Florida, and he was underwater cinematographer. This guy's awesome. He's a living fish, and you know, he did the photography. I helped him with the lighting. We helped him definitely, but yeah, it was amazing. Just making sure you get the right lights that are on there. So like in many cases, like, you gotta have the right flashlight if you're doing a scene above water, you know. Yeah. Make sure it works for you photographically. And
it still looks realistic, like
exactly.
It was a lot of fun. How are you with lighting scenes that you know are, you know, very CG heavy, or that are going through, you know, a pretty rigorous process in post-production? Is that
No, I think it's cool. I mean,
it's just you just need to count on collaboration of the post super,
yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have the vision.
VFX
You got to have the storyboards or the animatics or, you know, whatever, the previs or, you know, whatever it is. Everybody's got to be on the same page. You got to, you know, think about it all and kind of, you know, understand what's organic and what should be or what should be simulated organic. And you know, you just think about it and collaborate and just do it. You know, it's fun. It's actually quite fun. I may do this movie, which has been kind of like happening and not happening for about 2 years. With Chuck Russell, the same guy did The Mask and Scorpion King with. Yeah. Arabian Nights, which would be like a super fun kind of movie to do.
Yeah.
Just talked to him about a week ago, and maybe that's bubbling again, which is, pardon me, would be super fun, but would be
pretty CG heavy.
well, it would be a combination actually. The good news is in China and in Eastern Europe, in some very obscure parts of Eastern Europe and China that Westerners have never even photographed and or seen, they have these incredible palaces and sets that we're going to maybe be able to shoot. And then in addition to that, I mean, you still got flying carpets and shit, you know, which would be really cool, and Cyclopses and Sinbad and, you know, whatever.
That'll be exciting to
very fun
collaborate on and,
really
and
fun to
deconstruct and create.
Yeah, and yeah, it's just, again, it's all about preparing it properly. Someone having a vision, preparing it properly, and executing it, you know, and having a good time doing it.
I like your vision, John Leonetti.
Well, thank you.
And I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
No worries, my pleasure.
And opening your home up to us. This is amazing.
Anytime.
Thank you, sir. And for
Pleasure.
the brewskis.
Warm heart, cold hands.
Cold hands,
Warm hearts,
heart.
cold
You know
hands.
it.
Right on.
Thanks.
Very good.